Hello, once again. Good day to you. How are you doing today? Welcome to another series of food safety basics, what you need to know. I am Fumilola Dokun, and here we are sharing simplified safety series. This is food safety basics 1, basic 2. So we have dealt with 1 earlier, and thank you for the likes, thanks for the comments, thanks for the subscription, and also thank you for sharing to your friends. Please keep the comments coming as we continue the series 2 today. And today we'll be talking about something also very simple with respect to food safety. And we discussed the other time that all of us are food handlers and food consumers. So you don't have to be working in a food processing company to be a food handler or a food consumer, because all of us cook our food. And we today about food types and their management. And so what exactly are we going to talk about? Well, briefly, I want us to quickly understand something with respect to bacteria and what exactly is I just want us to share something a little bit, because we'll be talking a little bit about bacteria today. Bacteria is mostly is one of the microorganisms that affect our food, one of the one of the microbiological contaminants, which we discussed at the earlier series. And so what are bacteria? Bacteria are single-celled microorganisms that are found everywhere. I mean everywhere. On our raw food, in the air, in the water, on people, on surfaces, they are found everywhere. And so we will just talk about these 2 major, I just wanted to know these 2 major bacteria types, and which are the pathogens and the commensals. What are pathogens? These are bacteria that causes food spoilage and could lead to food poisoning. These are bacteria that causes food spoilage and could lead to food poisoning. And so these pathogens are the major things that we talk about in food safety. And so just for information purpose, commensals are bacteria that live on or in the body without causing us any form of illness. And you remember the last series we had, we talked about the requirement for bacterial multiplication, and which are warmth, moisture, time, and food. And when these 4 come together, we found out that bacteria multiply. And I said earlier that bacteria multiply with the process of what we call binary fission. But we are not going to go into those microbiological details so that I don't bore you with it. So let me just go straight into what we want to share today. And these are our food. So let me go into what we want to talk about today, which is our high-risk food, the food types. And we have 2 food types, and we have the high-risk food and the low-risk food, the high-risk food. So what are these high-risk food? What are they? These high-risk food are food that support the growth of bacteria. They are the 4 things that makes bacteria to multiply. And so they can grow. Food poisoning bacteria can grow, and they can multiply on this food more easily because the environment is suitable for them to grow. Everything is there. The warmth is there. The nutrient is there. The right temperature is there. So they can thrive. And I said earlier that bacteria grows between 10 to 20 minutes. They multiply rapidly. And so high-risk food, like which are rich in protein, which are rich in starch, raw or cooked fish, raw or cooked poultry foods, shellfish, cooked rice, cooked beans, lentils, egg products, all of them are high-risk food. And prepared salads, gravies, our soups, these are what we call high-risk food. And this high-risk food, we have also want to break it into 2, which is the raw food and the ready-to-eat food. We'll talk a little bit about the raw food. And so this is just for you to see high-risk food: poultry, fish, cooked rice, cooked pasta, meat product, dairy product. What happens is that when you have cooked this food, because we cook it and it's ready to eat, we don't have preservatives in it. We find out that bacteria can easily grow and multiply in this food. And so we also want to say, I also want to say that something that we know raw food, most of our raw meat, raw fish are always still moist. So the environment is still suitable for bacteria to multiply. So those are high risk food. And also we want to talk about low risk food. And this low risk food do not support the growth of bacteria. High risk food support the growth of bacteria. Low risk food do not support the growth of bacteria. So that is why they are called high risk food. They are less able to support the growth of bacteria. And this low risk food do not need to go into the fridge. Some of them, they can be dry, which are our cereals, our flour, our confectionery, our sugar, our dry biscuits, spices, uncooked grains. All these ones are called low risk food. And also we have the low risk ready to eat perishable food, which are our fruits and vegetables and salad. So it's important to always remember that because they are low risk food does not mean that we just begin to handle them anyhow. We need to understand that if we need to still handle them safely. And so we'll still talk about, so these are just examples of low risk food, the dried foods or food with little available moisture, such as flour, such as bread, such as rice, our cereals, our flour, confectionaries, our sugar, dry biscuits, spices, uncooked grains, food with high fat and sugar content, such as chocolate, sweets, all those foods are low risk food. We have our acidic foods such as vinegar and products stored in vinegar. They are low risk food, dried food or food with little available moisture, such as flour, your bread and rice, cereals, flour, sugar, dry biscuits, spices, food with high fat content or high sugar content, acidic foods like vinegar, and fruit and vegetables, unopened canned foods. All these are low risk food. And so what are the tips for handling the high and low risk foods? The first thing we need to understand is that we need to wash our hands. Personal hygiene is very important. We talked a little bit about personal hygiene, and we still have to continue to talk about it with respect to food safety. Washing our hands is one of the tips for handling whether it is low risk or high risk food. Wash our worktops, knives, and utensils appropriately, because most of these worktops or our knives and utensils that we use for cooking can be affected by this bacteria. Yes, so we need to make sure that they are washed often as much as possible. Washing of dishcloths that we use in the kitchen and to prepare our food is also very important. And it is very important for us to know that most of these dishcloths, sometimes we use and we make sure, and during usage, it becomes wet. As soon as it's wet, it is important for us to make sure we dry them so that they do not support the growth of bacteria. And then we also need to keep our meat separate. Separating our meat from our high risk food and from our low risk food is also very, very important. We do not encourage cross contamination. We'll talk about cross contamination, but it means that we need to prepare the food in separate places. In a sense that sometimes we can have different chopping boards for different type of food, like the raw food. So in some school of thought, it is advisable that we have a separate chopping board for raw food, while we have a separate chopping board for the ready to eat food. And so also we need to keep our meat separate, which I've said, store our raw meat at the bottom shelf. What we mean is that to avoid drip contamination, we'll be talking about this cross contamination in the next episode, in next series. And so we need to store our food in on a rack or inside the refrigerator in a way that they do not cross contaminate. And so from standard, it is advisable that the raw meat are stored at the bottom, while the ready to eat food are stored at the top. The raw meat are stored at the bottom, while the ready to eat food are stored at the top. It is advisable that the raw food are stored at the top, at the bottom, while the ready to eat food are stored at the top. So it is also important for us to know that we need to cook this food thoroughly. We need to cook them thoroughly, and I've said it before, with respect to the temperature, we need to keep this food, which is above we need to cook, which is about 75 degrees centigrade, which is the temperature that we are sure, the science is sure that these bacteria have been destroyed. And so keep your fridge below 5 degrees centigrade. Keeping our fridge below 5 degrees centigrade, we like I said before, our raw food, our ready to eat food should be kept under between 1 to 5 degrees centigrade, but on to 4 degrees centigrade, because 5 degrees centigrade to 63 degrees centigrade are the temperature where the bacteria can multiply. So we need to make sure that our food do not stay in this zone, and also cool leftovers quickly and refrigerate them. And also we need to check the expiry or used by date product, so that we can be sure that this I said this canned food are low risk food, but because they are low risk, don't mean we just eat it anytime. We need to check whether the expiry date is still there. So thank you today, and I hope we have learned something. The 4 major types of food, which are the high risk food, and the high risk food is divided into 2, which is the raw food, which needs to be taken care of, and also the ready to eat food, which are the food that when you have cooked it and the next thing is ready to eat. And also other type, which is the low risk food. And we said that the low risk food are the grains and the cereals, and also the fruits and vegetables, our salads and all those are under the low risk food. But it's important that we handle them appropriately, so that we don't allow bacteria we don't allow room for multiplication of bacteria. So thank you for today. We wanted to continue to like, to subscribe to our channel, and also share and comment also.